Hello, successful people. Welcome back to the Iron Fire Success channel. I'm TK.
And I'm Mo.
Thank you to our subscribers.
And if you're new to our channel, welcome.
This is part 1 of our laundry room update video series.
In this video, we're going to show you how we installed this contact paper over our granite counters in our laundry room.
Check it out. Here's the counter that I'm going to cover with the contact paper. You see it goes around in an L shape and goes around the sink. You have the backsplash there, and this part here is alongside of the wash machine, so that's going to be super tricky, but I'll deal with that when I get to it. So here I'm just going to show you real quick my plan, which is to use this contact paper. Then in my next video, I'm going to put this backsplash on with this trim piece that I got. Here are the tools that I'm going to be using. I may not use all of these things, but I'm going to use most of them. This is a wallpaper smoothing tool kit that I already had, which had this yellow thing in it, this blue smoothing tool that has like this kind of felt corner, this straight edge, and there was a small measuring tape that came with it, but I don't use it. Instead, I use this measuring tape, and this is a level that has a ruler on it. And for smoothing, I'm going to try and alternate and use this kind of plastic spatula. I learned not to use anything that has a metal edge because it might snag or tear your contact paper. We have this squeegee here, which might be a way of covering more area. I also have used this safety pin you see here to pop air bubbles if I need to do that, instead of pulling up all the contact paper, a pencil, and scissors. Those I'm using barber scissors because they're easier and lighter for me to handle. The first thing you need to do before you start doing anything is to wash and dry the counter. And so I'm going to do that with a sponge and some light soap and water and dry it with a paper towel and just wait 10 minutes before I do anything. But I want to show you that what I did this time is I cut out the pieces in advance. I had to think about what was the best approach because of the shape of this countertop and because it has this backsplash here that has this lip that's 1 inch, and then this is 4 inches. So what I decided to do was to cover all the backsplash around here first. And what I did was I measured and cut that out here. And then what I did was I marked on the back here with my pencil, let's see if I can show you this, where the factory edge is and where the cut edge is. So that this way, when I'm putting it up, I'll be able to tell which part is straight from the factory. But as you can see, it has these grid lines on the back. So, you know, if you measure, have a straight edge and mark it off, you really don't need to be that concerned about not having a straight line. Then I'm going to put on this piece that you see here, which is going to go from one side of the counter to the other. Then I am going to put a piece right here on the left side of the sink, and then I'm going to have a main piece which is going to cover this entire area. So I had to figure out how to do this using the least amount of sheets as possible and to make it as easy as possible on myself. We'll see if I'm successful. I marked which one is the factory edge. This is the left side backsplash piece. This is the cut side so that I know which part I'm putting down. So I'll hold it up like this because I want to go from right to left. I'm going to use this. Like that. What I'm concerned about is it going up as it goes to the right. See that? I think it's because this paper in the back takes up space. You know, like the extra piece. So maybe I have to push it down. Maybe that's why.
That backsplash is in two pieces too, but it's, you know, so it could be that that bead of caulk is uneven back there between the two pieces as well.
Let's keep this from popping up. Using these two hands is helpful because I'm applying constant pressure with my left hand. Oops. Much faster and easier than what I did last time. Smooth. No bubbles. I want to cut this here. It was a little weird cut I did, but that's okay. And I want to fold this over. I'm going to make a cut here. That was pretty easy. I pulled this so you couldn't see the seam. I'm pushing the air toward the wall. gonna stretch it so it gets tight. There we go. That's done. That only took about 5 minutes, I think. I sped up the rest of this video so that you can see what I did and how I did it without actually watching it for the full length of time it took, because it took way longer than what it looks like here. Now, as you can see, once I get that first piece fastened and get that smooth going, the rest really doesn't take that long for this piece of the backsplash. I'm tapping it down so that I could keep the bottom edge flush with the countertop so that I don't have to worry about it going sideways or causing a gap. Once I get to the very end, I just go back and use the tool to be able to force the air out to the nearest edge. And then that really worked out well. I made a cut in the top piece of this as well, so when I push it down over the edge, it's easier to adjust the paper when I don't have to adjust the entire piece at one time. And I can really take my time and get each piece flat. The fact that this pattern has this movement in it and is stretchy, you really can't even see where I put the cut once I'm done. This piece should have been a breeze, but it was not. I had a hard time with this. One thing I did right was mark a spot here on the cabinet where I would line up the bottom edge of the contact paper. I did that because I wanted to be able to put the paper on straight and figured I would use that as a guide. First thing I did wrong was I pulled up too much of the back of the contact paper at the beginning. So that made it more difficult for me to be able to position the paper correctly. So I had to do that over a couple of times. The second mistake I made is you'll see when I pull the paper off of the back of the contact paper, my hand is going down and to the right, and you can see how the paper is even laying on the countertop going down and to the right. I should have had my hand in the middle of the piece of contact paper, so I'm pulling it from both sides evenly and not yanking from one corner. You can see Mo is trying to help me by keeping the contact paper pushed up some. By the time I got to the end, I realized the paper was slanted down and to the right, and so I did something I should not have done, which is I picked up the entire piece and then struggled to reposition it. Doing this is something that could cause bubbles, it could cause creases, and worst of all, the paper can get stuck to itself, and if that happens, there's no getting that apart. You just have to start over with a new piece. So I struggled. Mo helped me get this back on and keep it straight, and ultimately I was able to get this done without having to get a new piece. So that was a good thing, but it was much harder for me to smooth it out and get all the bubbles out after without creasing the paper. While I was able to stand in front of the counter and work from left to right, to put on the other pieces. Now that I'm standing in another direction, I'm really working now from top to bottom. I've seen videos where people work from top to bottom as their preferred method. So this is my first time trying it this way. It was a little difficult for me to position it, and there is a seam in the countertop I was using as a guide. But once I got this top piece on, getting the rest of it done really wasn't that bad at all. So I guess there isn't a noticeable difference in going from side to side or top down. While I had several smoothing tools available to use to do this project, I found that this particular spackling tool really worked well. I had good dexterity with it. It has an edge that's straight and hard, so I can really get into those corners, and it really helped push out the bubbles without creating any creases or snags in the contact paper. Because this contact paper had some stretch and give to it, I was pulling down when I was pushing down with the tool to try to get it tight around the corners without having too many air bubbles. Because I find with the double corner, it's hard for the air to have anywhere to go. So I really try to pull as much as I could so that I can get it tight around that edge. This is the last piece of the 5 pieces of contact paper I'm using to do this part of the counter, and guess what? I did not measure it long enough. You see that gap there? The moral to the story is always add a little bit extra onto your measurements, even if you think you've measured it. I measured it twice and I still cut this too short. I wasn't really worried about it because with this particular contact paper and this pattern, places where there's gaps and you need to fill in, you really won't be able to tell when all is said and done. So I would have preferred to have it be long enough, but with this contact paper, it wasn't really a problem. This time, I pulled the contact paper from the bottom, the middle, and the top so that I was pulling it off evenly and it would go on straight. I did not want to make the same mistake twice. When doing something like this, I think it's good to have more contact paper than you'll need on hand because there are times where I would get frustrated. There would be creases or air bubbles, and what you don't see often in these videos is that there are do-overs that may occur. It's less frustrating if you don't have to worry about running out of contact paper. Now that I'm all done with this side, I'm just going to use the straight edge to trim off the excess contact paper, and I'm going to do the side over by the side of the wash machine, and I'll come back and show you how the final product turns out. And here is the finished product. Not bad at all. I was able to get around the sink, here in front of the sink, and also this piece that is right next to the wash machine. Now this over here is a lot more Frankenstein-ish than anywhere else because I was down to the last of the roll. I used 3 rolls to do this, and let me show you what I have left. I do have a couple of scrap pieces that are left from that roll because they didn't have the size that was 23.5, which would have been from here to here. This is the size they had, which was 17.5 by, I think, either 118 or 78 inches. I'll put this in the description box. So I will give a major tip which made it easier for me, which is to avoid going around lots of corners. Like here was a double corner, 1 corner and then 2 corners, because the air, I think, needs somewhere to go. The other thing is the particular kind of paper. This is by DC Fix. I used it before, I like it, it's pretty stretchy. This paper I bought is by, I think, Rabbitgoo, something like that. I'll put it in the description box. I found this to be a little heavier and not as stretchy and forgiving, so that where I can rub this back and forth and get an air bubble out, this would crease up. So that's why, even though I originally was going to do this, I went with Old Faithful, and I think it worked out just great. I'm not going to worry about trimming up the edges a whole lot because I'm going to put backsplash on there next. Thank you for watching.
Please subscribe for more content about new home construction and model home tours in and around San Antonio.
And subscribe to continue to follow us as we continue to turn our new construction house into a home.
As always, until next time, be peaceful, stay prayerful, and count your blessings.